Good morning, and welcome to the Sandia Peak Tramway. Thank you to Mayor Keller and Chief Medina for being here. A little over a week ago, we were all saddened by the news that our community had lost police service dog Rebel in the line of duty. In my younger days as a law enforcement officer and Army infantry officer, I had the good fortune of working with canine units and military working dogs. It was always a welcome sight to see one of these dogs when you were in a tough situation. I'm here to tell you that these service dogs and their handlers are such an important part of the safety and security of our city. The loss of Rebel was felt by so many, including many within the tramway, which got us thinking, what can we do and how can we help? Rides for Rebel was created to honor Rebel and Officer Brito, and also to raise money and awareness for the APD K-9 unit. From June 9 through June 22 at Sandia Peak Tramway, we will donate $1 for every rider to the APD K-9 unit. Please come out and support this vital part of our police department. And if you don't like the heights or riding the tram is not your thing, we will have a way to donate directly to Rides for Rebel. And with that, I'd like to welcome Mayor Keller.
Well, good morning, and I am here for a couple of reasons, and of course, first and foremost, it's just to reflect and pay our respect, of course, to Rebel, but also to announce something that the generosity of Ben and the Tramway family are going to be able to help us really honor his legacy going forward. But of course, I want to share, a couple of the basics with respect just to the situation. And look, we understand that it turns out, that it was a situation of friendly fire, and that happens sometimes. It's a terrible thing for any loss of life, including the family of the deceased and what they're going through. But also, of course, we understand that these are very difficult situations. And what Ben said, to have a canine available to try and help resolve that situation as best they can, we do countless times throughout the city. In fact, Rebel responded to 900 deployments. And certainly in those situations, I'm sure there were many where he saved a life. And so we are grateful for our canine officers, companions, units, whatever you want to call them, our service dogs, everything in between. But I also want to draw a distinction or a parallel with our mounted unit. And of course, our incredible horses that we have that support APD. And between the canine unit and the mounted unit, we have a full department that includes folks who are, of course, horses and canines. And the difference between the two that I want to highlight is for many, many years, we have honored our mounted units, our horses. We have a training facility for them. We have a special home for them. And we have a whole support network for them. What the loss of Rebel has highlighted is it hasn't necessarily been that way for our canine units. And we want to use the funds that are able to be donated through this program to help remedy that situation. So our chief is going to walk through the details, but we're going to build a training facility for our canines. Believe it or not, we don't have one. And they actually just train at parks or mesas or wherever we can find space. And it's also important for the bonding between the officer, right, and the canine. That is a very special bond that is very akin, of course, to a human-to-human bond. In fact, it's in some ways can actually be argued it's more powerful because of what they go through together on a difficult crime scene and in situations of violence. And so we respect that bond, but the best way we can do that going forward is to actually have a facility. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try and build a training facility right next to Daniel Webster Park. And this facility will train our canines. It'll be that place of bonding for the officers and the canine units. And of course, it's also tied to the memory of Daniel Webster because there's a little gnat going after me there. The apprehension of the person who killed him was done by a canine unit. So it fits. It makes sense. It's the right thing to do. And I want to express, first off, this was Chief's idea. He ran it by me, and I was like, this is why, sometimes our chief, man, he comes up with some really good ideas. and this is a great one. And of course, it wouldn't be possible without the generosity of Ben Abruzzo and his family, and of course the tram that we all love and we celebrate here in Albuquerque and in the metro area. So what your generosity has done has spawned something much more powerful that is going to last for generations of officers and of canines, and will be an asset for our city. And so thank you so much for seeding that entire project and for hosting us here today. And we're very grateful for their dedication, what you acknowledge about the officers, and also we're going to hear from some family and give some other examples of just how important this is to our community. So thank you so much.
Just want to thank everybody for being here today. And sometimes through tragedy, that same gnat's going to get on my nerve that got on Mayor's nerve. But sometimes taken into custody, and we had the loss of life of a police service dog, the first police service dog that we've lost. And I want to thank Sandia Tram staff for supporting this, for helping us realize this. 11, I was assigned as the commander of the tactical section to oversee K9 SWAT, EOD, horses, bombs, and the prisoner transport center at the time. And this was a vision we had since 2011, is to build a park where our canines could be trained. Back then, we would go to Kirtland Air Force Base and utilize their equipment, their park, and then we would makeshift our parks in the city and different training facilities, and we'd go out and officers would teach their canines how to jump through windows, how to navigate barriers, how to run through a tunnel, all the things that our canines may be expected to do out in the field. And that is what we're going to be able to realize now because of the generosity of everybody involved, and we're going to fundraise and thank Mayor. I mean, Mayor's good at thanking me, but ultimately in the end I'll probably be short, and he's going to help me figure out what we need to finish doing to fund this project. But our dogs and our handlers deserve a training facility of their own. But there's a lot of symbolic things in the background that make this extraordinarily special, and that brought us to the point where we are today. It just so happens that the former sergeant of K9 is my chief of staff, Mike Hernandez. And Mike reminded me of the fact that we always wanted to build a dog training park, and that we had talked about it for years and we're looking into it. Mike had the knowledge of K9 and brought that firsthand to me in my position, and reminded me of the stuff that I experienced in the past. But it was also Mike who came forward and at the time, when Officer Webster was murdered, deployed his canine chef, who took that suspect into custody. So there's a lot of meaningful things in the background that occurred, where the location of this park is going to be very symbolic for the police department, because it's going to be named after a canine that we lost, but also on the outskirts of somewhere where we honor an officer who lost their life, who a canine in turn took that individual into custody. You know, our canines are here to save and preserve human life. They're here to save and preserve human life, both of suspects and officers. And this was a difficult situation. And like Mayor said, he did lose his life to friendly fire. And as we get closer, we will be able to explain and show the specific dynamics that were occurring that day that really limited our officers in their response to this situation. But our canines are there to preserve human life, and difficult decisions to deploy them are made each and every day. In 2011, 2012, there are many times I had to make the decision to deploy a dog which put that dog in harm's way. And it is very difficult for the general public at times to understand. I would go home, I would speak to my wife and my family about the decisions that were made, and my wife would sit there and say, "Man, I can't believe you did that." But in the end, Very few people know the decisions that are made by officers each and every day in the situation that they're put in. Many times they're put in no-win situations where they make a decision hoping for the best, but sometimes the tragic happens. And I've always said this, unless you've sat in that seat and you've made those decisions, please reserve what you're thinking and remember that. Thank God you didn't have to make those decisions. So I want to thank everybody for assisting us today in ensuring that we are able to honor Rebel, honor what he stood for, the preservation of life, both of suspects and officers, and the fact that these training animals are heroes. Each and every day their handlers deploy them knowing they may not come back, knowing that they may lose a loved one who is not only part of their life each and every day, and the dog just gave me his approval, but a member of their family. And these situations are not only difficult on the officers who experience this loss of their best friend who they spend every day with, they're also difficult on the families who this pet, who this dog is a pet to outside of working hours. So once again, thank you to everybody for supporting us today. We will do great things with this support, and we will build something that honors each and every canine going forward in the Albuquerque Police Department and helps them do their job better each and every day. Thank you.
Anybody have questions about the fundraiser or the training facility that we're going to be building? I know I talked to you guys a few more slides after, but they really answered that. Do we have any timeline at this point in time for that? Timeline?
You know, obviously, I've asked them to expedite things as much as possible. I would suspect, I'm hoping that we could have this done by the fall. We had a lot of the groundwork already done. It was just a matter of we were looking for and waiting to get the funding for it. So I already had quotes yesterday on the equipment, and so we're hoping this could move forward at a speed better than typical government.
Can you describe kind of what this park would look like, for a layperson who's not going to know what
You-
it involves?
You know, for example, there are different obstacles within the course that resemble the atmosphere that dogs may be experiencing in the field. So a lot of times we need to put our dogs through a window to search a building that has been broken into. So there's a structure that is basically a hollowed window where the dogs could be, they could practice going into it. There's a tunnel simulating, the tunnels within the city that sometimes dogs need to search in, and having them in confined spaces. There's a balance bar that the dogs are able to go across, which simulates a cinder block wall, and the fact that a handler may having to navigate a cinder block wall with his dog. So there's a lot of different obstacles that are built to resemble the environment that these dogs are going to experience in the city.
So clarifying, so this fundraiser is going to help support and fund that park?
Yes.
Okay. And also, you say training, is there going to be like a person who trains the dog? Is there someone qualified to do that?
The dogs already have a trainers, and we bring in trainers from out of town every so often to assist them. The handlers are given training manuals on what they need to expose their dogs to. But right now, for example, if they need to practice going in and out of a window, they'll drive around the city and they'll find somewhere that will allow them to utilize their facility, and they'll just make shift with that. They'll go to a city park and they'll utilize the park for them to be able to simulate whatever training they're trying to do. This will be able to centralize it at their office and ensure that they have a secure location where they could access everything and go through every scenario at every training process instead of doing something somewhere and then looking for somewhere else to do something later on.
And last question. And so, like human, we need to get continuing training. They have to do continuing training too to just keep up with their ability as dogs.
The amount of maintenance that these dogs take is unreal. If you were to sit down with the canine handler and see how close that bond is close because they interact and train daily. Each and every day, there's some aspect that the handler is doing with their dog.
Thank you.
How much is the facility costing, and how many dogs are going to be able to train there at once?
The facility we're anticipating it's going to cost us about somewhere around 150 to 200,000. The equipment alone is somewhere near $50,000. There's going to have to be some turf and some fencing that's put in afterwards and ground preparation. it should be able to, we should be able to have all of our dogs, which typically runs anywhere from 6 to 8, training at the same time in different parts of the park. But once again, I have been really big in the belief of partnerships. The Sheriff's Department, the state police are great partners of ours, so we will also be opening this park up so that their canines can utilize this park. So this isn't just a park for the Albuquerque Police Department. It is going to be a park for all of our canines in law enforcement to be able to utilize throughout the metro area.
When I was talking with, when I was talking with Mike, last week, he had said that you guys already had plans to get another canine. Do we have any updates on that?
You know, it's a complicated process because we have to fly the handler out to California. They go over and they review several dogs over a period of a few days as they're trying to match a dog to a handler. Sometimes it just doesn't happen on the first routine, and sometimes they'll have to reinvest and get a second dog and go through it. But it is a process now of us just, first, we need the handler to finish mourning. We need the handler to finish going through the investigation. These officers were involved in the shooting. They will go through a administrative and criminal investigation. And when we think it's right for our officer and he is of a right and a good place mental health wise, we will start the process of getting him out there. But I don't want to rush the officer to get out there. There are mental health concerns that I'm always worried about, and we're going to make sure that the officer is in a good place and he's ready to go out and find his next partner for the next several years, we're hoping.
My first question was, earlier you said there was information for people that wanted to donate but not ride the tram. Where can we find that again?
It's through the One Albuquerque Fund, and I have a link in the press release that you guys will be getting. So yeah, if they're unable to buy a ticket or that, they can donate that way.
And then second question, this really adorable pups over here, are they part of any of this going on today?
No, they're pretty cool dogs, but I could get charged with theft after this because I'm really tempted to grab one and go home.
I'm just curious.
They're here to support the cause. Any other questions? Great, thank you guys.
Ready?